$25,000, that's less than a new car, less than a year of rent in many cities, and it's now the price of a ready-to-live container home you can order online, as casually as you'd buy a TV. But how do you build an actual house for car money in about 72 hours and still make a profit? Today we're going inside the high-speed factories behind those viral Amazon and marketplace listings. Expandable container homes that promise a bedroom, a bathroom, a kitchen, even a terrace for the price of a used sedan. If you like deep dives into how this kind of thing really works, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. The story starts far from Amazon's homepage, in industrial parks in China, where companies like Hebei Weijingheng Modular House Tech Co., better known as WZH Group, have turned housing into a product line. On Amazon, one of their best-known models is a 20 by 40-foot insulated, expandable container home. The listing price CNBC reported was $24,800, plus about $1,000 in shipping. That's the ballpark that's now been pushed down toward the $20,000 mark by newer prefab kits. You see a glossy render, a bright living room, a compact kitchen, a bathroom, maybe a bedroom or two. What you don't see is the 3-day sprint that happens before that steel box ever leaves the factory. The secret is that almost nothing about these homes is custom in the way a traditional house is. Instead, the factory runs like an auto plant. The structure starts as a standardized steel frame, usually square steel pipes welded into a rigid rectangle. For the sub-$25,000 units, the dimensions are often similar to a 20-foot or 40-foot shipping container because those dimensions are cheap to ship and easy to permit in many countries. On one side of the factory, workers assemble these frames in batches. Galvanized steel is cut, jigged, and welded by teams that repeat the same joints hundreds of times a week. Galvanizing and waterproof coatings are applied not because someone loves over-engineering, but because it dramatically cuts returns and warranty claims when the home ends up in a place with heavy snow or extreme heat. The result is a skeleton that can be folded for transport, then expanded on site. Next comes the skin and the insulation. Instead of traditional studs and drywall, these homes use structural insulated panels, steel sheets sandwiching an insulation core. Panels are pre-cut to standard heights and widths, then slotted into the frame. That's how the builders can claim resistance to extreme climates. The same panel that keeps heat out in Australia also keeps warmth in during a Canadian winter. It's not magic, it's repetition. One panel spec, thousands of units. By the time the frame and panels move down the line, another team is prepping the interior modules. This is where the house in a kit feeling comes from. Bathroom pods are assembled as self-contained units, non-slip tiles already laid, toilet and sink installed, mirror mounted, cabinets hung, waterproofing sealed, and a compact water heater bolted in. Electrical conduits and plumbing lines are pre-routed through the pod walls, terminating in standard connectors that match the main shell. The same logic applies to the kitchen. For the slightly more expensive models, like the 2-story expandable container, tiny house that Travel Plus Leisure highlighted for just under $45,000, you get a fully equipped open kitchen. Cabinets, counters, sink, and appliance hookups all pre-installed. For the roughly $20,000, $25,000 units, the kitchen is simpler, but the principle is identical. Cabinets are built in bulk in just a handful of color schemes. Countertops are cut to 2 or 3 standard lengths. Every decision that could create complexity is shaved down to a menu of options that can be swapped without slowing the line. Customization, the way the listings describe it, is mostly about rearranging these modules. The $20,331 prefab tiny home kit described by the US Sun offers multiple layout options: a living room with 1 bedroom and a restroom, or 2 bedrooms, or 3, even 4 bedrooms with a single shared bathroom. On the factory floor, that doesn't mean redesigning a house from scratch. It means choosing how many bedroom modules to drop into the same 40-foot envelope and where to place internal partitions. This is how they keep the promise of fully customizable without destroying their margins. Before you order, you're advised to contact the builder through Amazon. That conversation doesn't change the engineering. It just locks in which pre-designed layout you want, what color your cabinets will be, and whether you're getting, say, a larger living room or squeezing in an extra bedroom. The factory then pulls from inventory. one bathroom pod, two bedroom partitions, one kitchen module, the standard window set, and so on. The safety and durability claims that sound almost too good to be true are also baked into this system. According to the product descriptions, these homes are built with weather-resistant materials, with fire protection up to level 11 and earthquake resistance at level 9. Those numbers aren't marketing fluff for the factory, they're engineering targets they design every unit to meet, because it's cheaper to overbuild once than to manage dozens of different structural standards for each buyer. The steel frame is designed to remain stable even when the house is folded for transport. That's crucial, because many of these units ship as compact boxes that expand on site. Hinges, telescoping beams, and sliding floor sections are all pre-installed. In the plant, workers test the fold-out mechanism multiple times before the unit is wrapped. Time spent here prevents nightmare scenarios where a customer unfolds their instant home and discovers a jammed wall or misaligned roof. Inside, the electrical and plumbing are pre-routed but not fully connected. The factory installs junction boxes, breaker panels, and conduit runs, leaving final hookups to local electricians and plumbers. That's partly a legal necessity. Building codes differ wildly between, say, the US, Germany, and Australia, all markets WZH Group says they've sold into. But it's also a way to keep the advertised price low. The $24,800 or $20,331 tag covers the shell, the fixtures, and the hard work of integration. Local labor handles the last few steps. Some models push the self-contained idea further by offering solar panels as an option. CNBC reported that WZH's 20 by 40 foot expandable container home could come with solar energy panels. From the factory's perspective, that's just another module. A pre-wired roof rack with inverters and cabling that plugs into the same electrical system as every other unit. For buyers dreaming of off-grid living, it's a powerful upsell that doesn't require the factory to reinvent anything. Not every tiny home Amazon lists is meant to be a full-time residence. Allwood's cabin kits, for example, arrive as wood, windows, doors, and hardware, with no plumbing or electrical. Some models are just 86 square feet, more like an enclosed outdoor room than a house. But the container-style prefab kits we're focusing on deliberately cross that line. They come with doors, windows, kitchen cabinets, full bathrooms with showers and toilets, and the basic electrical and plumbing infrastructure already in place. Washer and dryer hookups are often built into the design, waiting behind a closet door. That's what makes them so versatile. The same kit can be a backyard office in the US, a staff dormitory in Germany, a security room at a construction site, or a temporary office on a remote project. Amazon's product descriptions lean into this, calling them ideal for compact living, off-grid housing, or a sustainable lifestyle. For the factory, every one of those use cases is the same sale, one more unit off the line. The economics are brutal but simple. Traditional homes are one-off projects. These are products. The factory buys steel, insulation, fixtures, and windows in massive quantities, driving the per-unit cost down. Labor is organized into specialized teams that repeat the same tasks all day, cutting build time to a fraction of what a conventional house would require. That's how you get from raw steel to a finished, expandable container home in something like 72 hours of factory time, even if shipping and local setup stretch the calendar. On the buyer's side, the appeal is obvious. With rent and mortgage costs skyrocketing, a sub-$30,000 home that can be dropped on a piece of land feels like a cheat code. Travel Plus Leisure wrote about a 2-story expandable container house on Amazon with 2 bedrooms, an open kitchen, a terrace, and a full wet and dry bathroom for under $45,000. Other listings have gone viral for offering a compact 2-story house for around $27,990 with a claimed lifespan of up to 20 years. As more people see those headlines, the idea that you can click Add to Cart on a home starts to feel normal. But there's a catch the factories can't solve on their own: regulations. In the US, a tiny home is generally defined as under 400 square feet, and rules vary state by state. Some states, Alaska, Iowa, Louisiana, North Dakota, New Jersey, New York, Wisconsin, and West Virginia, have made tiny homes illegal as permanent dwellings. That doesn't stop the factories from building or Amazon from listing them. But it does mean that your $25,000 container palace might be legally treated as a temporary structure, not a house, depending on where you drop it. For the people who can make it work, though, the math is compelling. Ryan Mitchell, who runs The Tiny Life, has said he saved about $100,000 in rent by moving into a 150-square-foot home he built himself. The prefab container kits are a different path to the same destination: a smaller footprint, lower costs, and a simpler, more controlled environment. They're not magic. They're the result of factories stripping housing down to repeatable components, then rebuilding it as fast as possible. In the end, that's the real story behind the $25,000 Amazon container home. It isn't a miracle of cheap labor or corner cutting. It's what happens when you take the logic of consumer products and apply it to shelter. Standard frames, pre-built pods, limited but clever customization, high-volume purchasing, a 3-day assembly line instead of a 6-month construction site. The house becomes a kit, the kit becomes a listing, and the listing becomes a viral screenshot on social media. And once you've seen how far they can push the price down in a container factory, the next question is obvious. What happens when big box retailers get serious about this? Home Depot has its own lineup of tiny and prefab houses under $50,000, and the way they compete, or don't, with the Amazon models says a lot about where affordable housing is headed. That's what we're breaking down next. So check out the Home Depot Tiny House Deep Dive, and I'll see you there.